Welcome back, everybody. I had some great questions from the last video that I did on the JET program delay, and I will share a link below if you'd like to take a look. And I would like to address some of those questions today. And before doing so, I just want to remind everybody that I have no affiliation with the JET program other than I was a JET for 3 years in Shikoku from 2010 to 2013. So the information that I'm sharing today is from the JET website, and then it's purely just my perspective, my speculation on what the JET program will do. Well, there was a few questions, and a lot of the same themes were hit. So let me summarize, but essentially for people considering the JET program for 2021, the question is, will they still have an application process for next year? And then also, will the timeline be the same? Will this get started in September and October? Let me address both of those. So the JET program needs to provide enough good candidates of ALTs and CIRs to the different prefectures throughout Japan. And fundamentally, Japanese culture tends to be conservative. There's the plan A, but there's always a plan B and there's a plan C. So the worst thing for the JET program would be to not have enough candidates to then introduce to the prefectures in Japan, because that would result in not enough ALTs. That would result in schools in Japan not having an English ALT, which would be a big problem. So what I think the JET program will do is they'll be conservative and they'll make sure that they have enough applicants, an overabundance of applicants, so that they've got sufficient supply to be able to provide all the schools that need JET program ALTs for next year. Now, about the timeline, one of the questions was, will they still open up the application in September? Now, I looked at the JET program website. The official website says that the timeline remains unchanged, that it kicks off in October, November. The U.S. JET program website says September, so I would take them at face value. If you also look at the timeline, it's quite tight when you think about it. You need to collect all of the applications. You need to send out notifications about who's been accepted to interviews. You then need to do the interviews globally. A lot of logistics involved in that. You then need to send out notifications about who's been accepted to the program. You then need to marry these candidates with the open ALT positions throughout Japan and coordinate that side of the operation. And the earliest departure is April. So to fit all of that in, getting started this autumn, September, October, makes perfect sense. So I do think the program, in my view, will happen in 2021, meaning the applications for the program. I think it will be competitive, and I think the timeline will remain the same. So one of the other questions was, for alternate candidates that are on the waiting list right now, my suggestion would be it's almost September, and the JET program said they would make a decision for this current year in September based on travel restrictions. So I would hang in there, just wait a little bit longer and see what happens. If the program for this year gets canceled and the JET applicants from this year carry into the applicant pool for next year, meaning that they've got secured spots, I do suspect, all things being equal, that the 2021 program will be a very competitive application year. So I would go back to, are you passionate about Japan? What are your reasons for going to Japan? If you still feel that passion and those reasons still align, then I would apply again. And also, I received a comment from an individual that unfortunately did not get accepted. They had tried 3 years in a row, and unfortunately it did not work this year. I want to say that the fact that you have gone through this process 3 times in a year, 3 times, is gonna work for you in the long run. The fact that you're not giving up and that you are um, persistent. That's an important ingredient for success. So if you still feel, as I said a moment ago, if you still feel passionate about Japan, you'd still like to get Japan, I would apply again. Now, having said that, I don't think that you need to wait for another 3 years. If the JET program works out next year, wonderful. If it doesn't, there's other avenues to get to Japan. And I think the most important thing is just starting your journey. So if you want to get better at Japanese, if you want to be in Japan, let's get the journey started. And to that point, I would broaden my perspective. How can I get to Japan? Well, there's many ways, but just speaking about English teaching, either Eikaiwa or being an ALT, I've listed just a few here. Options that will hire people and help you with a visa, and then help you get to Japan and get started on your Japan journey. So we've got Nova. We have Interact, which I did a video on Interact and the JET program. I'll share in the link below. But it's very similar to the JET program from my understanding. There's ECC. There's Kids Duo. There's Peppy Kids Club. And then there's this Altia Central, which is new to me. I had not heard of that, but the reviews seem to be quite strong. Maybe a great program to take a look at. So just like when you're fishing, you want to throw as many lines as possible to increase the chances of catching your fish. So I would view other avenues outside the JET program, and there's benefits to each of these programs. Some things that JET program doesn't offer. One thing that's nice is for a lot of these is they recruit throughout the year, so it's not just a once a year shot like the JET program. You could also consider language school, going to Japanese language school. You could consider a graduate school in Japan. That would get you a visa. That would get you to Japan. Having said that, I would never go to graduate school and take on student loans just to get to Japan. If it aligns with your career goals, it may make sense. I went to undergrad. I went to a liberal arts school. A lot of us, myself included, as a history major, friends that were English majors. A lot of us didn't know what to do after college. So a lot of us went to law school just by default. And while some people went on to graduate from law school and have become lawyers and enjoy it, some graduated from law school, realized they had no interest in law and had a tremendous amount of student loan debt. So grad school, I think, is something that is worthy of consideration, but I would just think about it long and hard. And I think generally it's good to work for a few years if you're fresh out of undergrad, to really get a feel for what you like in life and experience the working life for a while, and then at that point make a decision on grad school. Okay, so with this landscape, we're looking at a fairly competitive JET program application process for 2021. So the importance of differentiating your application from others is more important than ever. So I would consider looking at ways to demonstrate that to separate yourself from the crowd. One would be to get a TEFL certification, so teaching English as a foreign language. There's also TESOL. I would look at both of those. That would be a great way to have a proof point and be certified for teaching English. But it'd also be nice just to go through the course and pick up some of the principles of teaching and the basics of English grammar. That would be something I would take a look at. Having some Japanese language ability or having demonstrated an interest in Japan could also be valuable. So I would look at maybe some Japanese language certifications. Unfortunately, the JLPT, which I'm a fan of, in the US at least, has canceled their test for 2020. Next one will be 2021. But there is a business Japanese proficiency test that appears to, they have test centers around the world that appears to still be going on. I've taken the test myself. I do think you'd probably need to have a little bit of Japanese under your belt already, but that's something that you could take. You'd get a score, and then you could put that into the application to demonstrate that you have some familiarity with Japanese. But you could also take a Japanese language course online, or you could take a Japanese language course maybe at a local university as another proof point to demonstrate that you have an interest in Japan and trying to learn Japanese. So I would look at ways to differentiate yourself. So my as I said earlier, my sympathies, my heart is with you guys. It's been a crazy year. I know there's a feeling of being in limbo. I would try to take this time to be productive, to remain optimistic, and try to be strategic. If we're going to face greater competition, how do we increase our skill sets to differentiate us from others? As always, please do, if you've got a suggestion for the community or a question, please do put it down below. The purpose of building the Japan Seikatsu community is to get a community of people that are like-minded in the sense that we've got a passion for Japan, and to help one another on that journey. So as always, please be sure to click like. That helps to help build the community, get this information in front of a wider audience. I thank you guys for the questions that you shared in the last video. I hope this is helpful. And again, remember that this too shall pass. Choppy seas out there, but keep optimistic. You knock on enough doors, a door finally opens. So do not give up on the dream, and best of luck. I'm thinking of you guys. Take care. Bye.